at the end of the block that they're asking for is going to be problematic, because people often use that alley to skirt and circumvent the traffic problems that we're having. That's often an alternate way to get to Lake Street when we can't get down Grand Avenue because the traffic is blocked. It's just, it's already an untenable situation. If I were to have my druthers, I would ask the Planning and Zoning Board to reconsider any zoning upgrades in this particular area until we've had some kind of a comprehensive traffic study to see how this is affecting our infrastructure, because it is severely impacting the quality of life for those of us who live in the neighborhood, who have a long-term investment in the neighborhood and care about the future of how our neighborhood is being developed. I think the Greenway development is all very exciting and everything. It's wonderful. I'd like to see it advance, but I would like to see it advance responsibly and without allowing these developers to come in and run roughshod over the residents. You know, I mean, this is just not, it's just not in character with the neighborhood. And the other thing that I would like to say is it's luxury housing. You know, this is a neighborhood that has rental properties. We have family homes and stuff. How long is it going to be until the people in these luxury apartments start looking at the kids playing on the sidewalk and go, oh, do we have to look at these grubby brats on our way home? You know, I mean, it's just, we have to think about how these developments impact the future of the neighborhood. You know, are these people going to come to our block parties? Whittier has worked very, very hard to include all of our residents in our activities, to reach out and increase that village feel that we have. And I just have a feeling, and we've already seen this to some degree in the neighborhood, that with these developments, that's a whole segment of the population that does not participate in our neighborhood activities. And I think that is something, that's an intangible, I grant you, but that is something that needs to be taken into consideration when we're making these kinds of planning decisions. So I would urge that you not grant the conditional use permit for the additional height. I would seriously urge you to reconsider the alley vacation, and I would urge you to forego any major zoning changes or upgrades or conditional use permits for additional height like this in the neighborhood until we have sufficiently addressed the infrastructure problems that these things are presenting to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? And we heard a little bit about concerns about height and traffic. Is there anything else you'd like to?
Now, I had a really hard time here. I couldn't actually hear the presentation by the developer. So I am familiar with the project. And my name is Cynthia Wong, and I live at 2932 Harriet, which is about 4 stories down across the street from the proposed project. Okay, this project is in no way fits into the character or of the existing neighborhood, which is an eclectic mix of single-family homes, duplexes, small businesses, and apartments. We have, for the most part, comfortably coexisted this way for a very long time, though we have weathered a few storms along the way. Things such as crack houses, vandalism, condemned houses, which made way for some beautiful, though modest, replacement homes. All in all, this neighborhood has made many small but steady improvements. This project is simply too large a scale for the neighborhood. 6 stories is entirely too massive, and it is unprecedented in this neighborhood. Solheim is not a stakeholder, but stands to profit on what we, the actual stakeholders, have built over many years, and over these many years we have witnessed and been an integral part of many amazing positive changes and improvements due to our vigilant efforts. I wish we had a picture right now of what my then new neighborhood looked like when I first arrived, including turning onto 28th Street. At that time, I was actually embarrassed of the impression that people who came to visit me would garner from turning that corner. My family tried to dissuade me from moving into this neighborhood. My sister-in-law took me by the shoulders, and said, Cindy, if you never listen to me again, listen to me now. Don't buy that house. I chose to believe that things would look up, that good things were coming to this neighborhood, and sure enough, we have made organic, awesome, and relevant changes in this neighborhood since the day I arrived in May of '92. Sioux Line Garden and the Greenway did not exist back then. The Greenway seems to now have become a magnet for development of high-end apartments. It reminds me of some friends of mine back in the 70s who were renting a house, which we'll just say needed a lot of help. They went about making repairs and fixing things up, and then the landlord raised the rent and they couldn't afford to live there anymore. Living on the Greenway, which we the neighbors have helped germinate, actually we did germinate the Greenway, and evolve over many years, may look very appealing now at this time, but will, I believe, over time, if this type of development continues, degrade into a place where no one wants to live anymore, including myself and my neighbors. Does it not seem reasonable that that Solheim or any other developer would inform the people who will be directly affected by a project of this magnitude before investing all the time, effort, and capital? A great example of this type of due diligence is Bin Lee, owner of Lake Wine and Spirits. I'll never forget the beautiful sunny spring morning he came to my door and presented his plans. He went door to door and did the same with each neighbor, and I can't imagine he didn't get 100% support for his now beautiful, thriving, and relevant addition to this neighborhood. Solheim presented at the February Community Issues Meeting, the Whittier Community Issues Meeting. I would like to know which neighbors were, as they claimed, informed. It seems to me there was no consideration or regard for those of us who have a very long tenure in this neighborhood. Chris, my neighbor, Chris Martinson, and I actually canvassed the neighborhood and found that, in fact, they had not reached out to any of them either. The developers, Solheim, lied when they led the people in that room to believe that they had communicated their intentions with the neighbors in close proximity to this project. They quite blatantly excluded those of us who actually have a very high stake in the future of our neighborhood. This is our home, and we were blatantly excluded from all of the processes involved in this project until now, and they've been working on this since June of 2015. The zoning does not support a project of this magnitude for good reason. We find not only the actions, but especially the inactions of the developer highly offensive. Are you all aware that the Whittier neighborhood has the highest population in Minneapolis, not to mention the state of Minnesota? I think a project of this size would be more appropriate for a neighborhood that can't make that claim. We would like to see a plan that is more reasonable and appropriate to this particular site. We would like to see a plan that would benefit all parties involved and be an actual asset to the neighborhood and Minneapolis as a whole. Thanks.
Great, thank you. And we have two more speakers. You can decide who goes first and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Chris Martinson, 2930 Harriet. I'm across the street from the proposed development. I'm here to represent a very strong opposition to the development. We have made a statement. As concerned citizens of Minneapolis, we, the undersigned, believe that the proposed development at 2905 Harriet Avenue South violates provisions in the Minneapolis ordinances 520.30 and 525.340. And I will not read this aloud right now. If you are going to move to approve the zoning change today, I would request that you allow me to read this. Before, if you are going to decide to change the zoning today, I would like to publicly read this aloud.
Well, the public hearing will only be open for a certain amount of time, and then we'll have discussion and vote it. I might suggest, though, you might consider just submitting that to the clerk.
But I would really like the chance to be able to read this aloud.
Okay.
If you guys are.
You can read it. That's fine.
I'm not going to do that now. I've got other things to talk about.
Okay.
We have a history in our neighborhood of being deceived by developers. This is a project on Garfield. It's U.S. Internet. We worked with the developer. They proposed like a brick building like you see in the picture. They did not show those really ugly silver things on top of the building.
We are familiar with past projects, so it'd probably be best to be focused on this application.
But I've got 2 other projects where we were deceived, and I just want to publicly declare it was Murals on Lynn Lake and then the Carmel Village on Grand. And I'm going to go over some of the observations we made because we've had, like I said, we've been through this before and we recognize deception. So I just wanted to bring that up to you. Okay. So they want to have a variance where they're going to push this building just 5 feet from, and I have the other pictures, from the small business hub that's right next to it. We're talking just 5 feet. Okay, 5 feet. That's incredibly small. These apartments right here are about 500 square foot apartments. The multiple apartments in this apartment building are 500 square feet. I invite you guys to go and tour a 500 square foot apartment. It's probably basically like a little small prison. If this gets built right here, just 5 feet, this little veranda area with these doors will not exist. There will be no windows in these apartments there. So that's a concern. Right here, it's showing their vision. This is showing the south end. This is where they want to do it, 5 feet right here from this building. This is the tallest building in our neighborhood right here. So you can see how massive this project is. It is incredibly, incredibly massive for this neighborhood. They want to decrease this space here for 5 feet. What are they going to do with these? What's the deal with these balconies there? Are they going to overlap this building? Are they just going to leave these out? What about the apartments down here that smash up against the building and 500 square foot apartments smashed in there? You know, they can address that. We have real questions about the shadow study. This picture shows like a real easy slope down to the greenway. This is very deceptive. The actual landscape goes almost like a straight down incline. So this building would be pushed directly on the edge of the greenway with like a sharp incline down here. And this is very deceptive. I don't know where they're getting this measurement here. It would have to be readdressed, I think. Here's another example of a deception. This is Carmel Village, the one where we were deceived before. The neighborhood approved a 4-story. Sabri illegally built on a 5-story that we tried to communicate to the city about it, and the city just kind of allowed it to happen and let it get approved. This is 5 stories here. This is Solheim's. This is, I don't know, this scale, you know, I don't know how it really, it doesn't look like it fits in, but the main thing that's deceiving is this grassy looking area here. This is what I'm talking about. It goes like a sharp incline down, like straight down to the greenway. So they're making it look like it's like a presentable space where it really has issues as far as how much it affronts the greenway. Here's another picture showing the small business hub here. And remember, this is just 5 feet. I mean, that's insane. Also, I just want to address that they're pushing this building to the max because they want the variances on the east and west side. So there's no yard space here. So they're just cramming this building in, you know, to the absolute max. This is showing the balconies again here. I mean, I don't know what the measurement on those balconies are. If there's balconies, they're going to overhang the adjacent property. And then here's another deceptive looking picture where they show this, this big slopey area going down to the greenway. It does not look like that. And then they show, oh, we're going to make it all nice and grassy looking like this hill. That's not the way it is. Here's another deceptive picture showing again the big grassy, like nice yard. Like, yeah, right. It's not like that.
Okay, and you've been speaking for a while now, so if you don't mind just wrapping up.
I just got a couple more things here. This is an incredibly giant, massive project. Just quickly, it's basically on like 2.5 lots. So this is showing 1 lot, 2 lots, and then the other half is this alley. And we're talking 6 stories, 76 feet, okay? It's crammed into 2.5 lots. Here's a picture of the small business hub. It's a very successful small business hub. So they want to build it like just 5 feet from here and then have it towering up above here. This shows a picture. Here's the small business hub, the tallest building in the neighborhood. So they want to build it like 5 feet from here, just crammed up against here. This is showing a shot from looking south. You can see how small the space is. Here's the small business hub. Here's where the greenway is. Okay, so it's just basically a giant 6-foot wall, like 76-foot metal wall. Another shot. And then here's the pictures of the greenway I'm talking about. So this would be the edge of the property, and this basically just goes straight down. And then this is like the city, like proposed light rail area. So there will be no access from this building, like direct access to the greenway. It's impossible to access anything to the greenway from this location. And then this is showing from the other end, the steep incline going down to the greenway. And just to wrap it up, I would like to reiterate, I would like to read my statement if you decide to move forward. The neighborhood would like you to deny the zoning change at this time.
Okay.
And if you do decide to motion, I would like to publicly make a statement.
I would suggest that you submit a copy of that letter to the clerk, and then it can be part of the record. Now we can move on to our last speaker. We have 2 more speakers. Please state your name and address.
Yeah, I'll make this relatively short. Hi, I'm Rob Schmidt. Recently moved.
If you don't mind standing at the center microphone, that'd be great.
Name is Rob Schmidt. Recently moved onto Harriet Avenue. I've lived in the Uptown area for several years. I live at 2809 Harriet Avenue, which is about 6 lots north of where the Greenway is. And I've kind of witnessed the urban renewal of this area. I just want to voice my support for this project. It'll continue bringing more urban renewal and bring Harriet more into the core of what's happened over on Lyndale, and completely tidying up the neighborhood. I recently invested most of my life savings in a house there. And this project can only suit to benefit myself and other property owners on Harriet Avenue. There are several concerns that they voice among traffic. The traffic issue mostly resides on the Grand Avenue side. Harriet Avenue is good most of the time. And I don't know the developer Solheim, but really glad they stepped in about this property. So just wanted to voice my support for this. Thank you.
Thank you. And please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Peter Bergerni. I live at 3055 22nd Avenue South, and I'm speaking here on behalf of the Midtown Greenway Coalition, of which I'm a board member. So in the packet, you do have the letter we sent you dated the 15th of March, which is before the developer made the changes to the public walkway. We were asking for them to remove the gates and make the path wider. So we just want to thank them for working with us to make that happen. We have some concerns with shading on the greenway, but ultimately we're happy that they've stepped the building back from the greenway. We're also happy about the eyes on the greenway because that's one of our goals. We do support density along the greenway. The biggest remaining concern is just the size of the that walkway and potentially those landscaping rocks. If it could be made to be 8 feet wide in a straight path, it would look more like a public walkway than it might with those landscape rocks. But we want to make sure we thank the developer for those changes and moving the gates from the public walkway to the individual units. Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? If there's no one, I'll close the public hearing. And commissioners, we have several applications before us. Commissioner Magrino.
Yeah, I have a question, maybe for the applicant about the walkway. It sort of takes a jog on, is that Harriet? Yeah, Harriet Avenue. Did you say that was because of the grade there?
And the grade. So there are two historic retaining walls that will remain on the slope down towards the greenway. And then the bridge embankment is that solid black line that continues right up to the walkway. So as you're entering the walkway, on your left-hand side will be the concrete of the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
the jog then moves it, away from that bridge and closer towards the greenway.
Okay. I guess it's sort of just a general comment. This is maybe the first building of many on this side of Lyndale here. And on the other side, we've got pretty much a continuous wall of developments along the north side of the greenway between Hennepin and Lyndale. And we maybe didn't coordinate that pedestrian environment as well as we could have between all those buildings. There aren't pedestrian curb cuts or anything. There's a tree kind of in the middle of one of them. And it's, it's fine to walk across, but I guess I'm just looking at this with an eye to, making it as easy as possible to walk down and not kind of have to do this a bunch of times. That's not a technical term. Yeah, anyway, okay. I was just wondering about that. Thanks.
Right. Are there any other questions? Commissioner Slack.
Yeah, I think this question probably goes back to the committee of the whole meeting. And I think for me, it's still somewhat of a sticking point, and it relates to the trail as well. The one-story workout facility, and then subsequently this outdoor workout patio. To me, that's really what's creating a lot of movement in the sidewalk. And I think for me, the ends as they hit each street, the fact that it does jog makes it look like it's private. I would almost prefer that they would just come straight out to the street, and I don't know what you can do with that one-story component. Maybe shift the light well over, narrow up the one-story component so that it can be a little bit more straight through there. And the comment that was made about widening it, I think that would be great too. It's just in plan, and I can almost get a sense standing on the street when you see it in the jog, it would just feel like it's a private sidewalk. And I think the intent here is to make it as public as accessible as possible.
All right. Are there any other questions? Commissioner
Back to
Kratzer.
these tombstone rocks, for lack of a better term. How tall are you proposing to make them?
They're actually,
Or how tall are they?
they're limestone rocks that are salvaged from our building that we're doing in the North Loop. And so we're planning to bury them in the ground so that they'd be knee height or lower. And one of the ideas and philosophies of the walkway was we went back through the historic research on the Greenway, and it was inspired by the Philosopher's Walk in Kyoto. And since this area doesn't necessarily connect to anything else, we designed similar surrounding perennials on either side, and the rocks in the entry space make it, a contemplative space, and also serve to sort of guide the walkway towards the light and to have a couple different atmospheric environments of the landscape as you're walking down the path. And the lighting, the bollards are all along the walkway, so we hope it seems very inviting and that people travel through it. And that was the inspiration for it that we have. So they'd only be knee height. And we think that they'd also serve to maintain the perennial plantings so that you don't have a lot of cattle paths crossing it over plantings in the area that'll keep traffic onto the paved areas.
So how tall, how many inches is knee height?
18 to 24 inches. They're all jaggedy, uneven, thick rocks, so they won't be planted at an even height. They'll look more natural, embedded in the landscape. So they would vary, from 12 to 24 inches.
Okay. Commissioner Magrino.
So I'm looking at the site plan, kind of on the note of what Commissioner Slack was just talking about. We don't want to get super into designing your building for you, but the fitness center there does jut out, and then it does look like there's pretty much just empty space right there. I don't know, kind of looking at page 8. It looks like of the site plan there. So right to the west, I've been in gyms. I think you could, it's not like you need it to be a square. If you arrange that like a rectangle, you could probably get just about the same amount of space, but keep the sidewalk going straight right there.
And it was a very conscious design decision. I can let our architectural team speak to that as well, but we wanted the programming of that to seem a very human scale active use on the Greenway. When we were planning and developing this project, we heard a lot of safety concerns, and beyond just eyes on the street and eyes on the Greenway, we thought that this brings it down to a human scale, presents a very active use. It'll be sort of a glowing beacon along the Greenway. We're really excited about sort of philosophically engaging the building in a communication with the Greenway by having an outdoor fitness area and an indoor area. They're most active and most used spaces of our building. And so we really wanted to connect that visually to the Greenway, which led to its planned location.
Commissioner Luke-Pierre.
So just for my own purposes here, so since we seem to be discussing this walk and the jog and whether it invites the public or not, I just wonder if it's maybe, I appreciate some of the landscape architecture thought behind it, but I'm wondering if it's as simple as some sort of plaque attached to some of these on each side that says that it's open for public use, that way people are pondering the deep meaning of life instead of whether or not they're trespassing. It might be a solution. I guess my question was, are you amenable to something like that?
Yes, absolutely. I think that would be something that would be amenable. And we even in our design discussions earlier this year thought of incorporating Kyoto or some of the vision behind it. We didn't go that literal, but we'd be, happy to entertain a plaque.
Okay. Are there any other questions of the applicant or other comments? Commissioner Luke-Pierre.
I have a question for staff, actually, but I'm just wondering if anyone else had questions for Lisa. So I had just a couple questions here, just clarifications, and I'm referencing the site plan, sheet 2. Do you have that on it by any chance? We could. So 2 quick things. Some of the public testimony centered on the setback request for the interior side yard of 5 feet. So I'm wondering if you could clarify that that does indeed start at where that 5 feet starts and stops in relation to the property line, and then also what the balconies, whether or not they're in conflict. I have a feeling it's
Correct. So let me get to this one. So the image that was shown during the public testimony was the committee of the whole image of the building. So since committee of the whole, they removed those balconies from the south interior side yard, instead placing them on the Harriet Avenue facade. So what's up here is what is proposed tonight. So they removed those balconies, and then the existing building that's to the south is about 1 foot off of their property line. So there's 6 feet of space between, if you can see here, that's the upper stories. 6 feet, and then this is showing just the ground floor, so that's showing the 9 feet because it's kind of cantilevered over.
Okay, and then my second question is in regard to the slope that there was concerns about it wasn't being accurately depicted. Can you show me where the property line for this development actually is?
Yeah, so the property line, so the northernmost parcels are basically the slope of the Greenway. And so the slope starts about here. And then if you look at the grading plans that are in there, they would be altering the grade somewhat, but they have notes that it would match what the existing grade is, which I think is 40 or 50% grade right now. So it is a pretty steep slope.
So what's the extent of their actual property that they own, though?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's from here to here
Okay, so okay,
and then here.
thank you.
Sorry, let me just to follow up. So that means that at the edge of the property line, that is where the grade currently starts?
So actually sorry, I keep going back and forth. So in this image, these parcels are this, oh gosh, now we're back over there. The northernmost two parcels, let's see if you can see my cursor. Right now there's a surface parking lot on one of them, and that's where that retaining wall you can see on the site plan that they would be rebuilding. And then this is basically the slope down right now. The alley is right here, and that essentially, when you're there, it's right where the slope starts. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Commissioner Luke-Pierre.
Hi, sorry, follow up real quick. And then just to clarify, because it looked to me as though there were at least 6 traditional sized lots in this development.
Mm-hmm.
Is it 6? Is it 7? Is it really 2.5?
It is 7.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Kronzer.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve the rezoning, item A.
All right, we have a motion to approve item A, the rezoning. Is there a second? Any further discussion?
I'll take
Commissioner Kronzer.
a couple of quick comments. I think this is a really well-designed project. It's taken in consideration the shadowing of the greenway and stepping back and adding density and still allowing protection for light to get to the greenway. It meets a lot of our city goals as far as adding intensity to the city in the proper locations. And the greenway is a place is evolving, and it's planned to evolve over time. So I think it's a really pretty good project for its site.
Yeah, and I'll just add, we did hear some concerns about height and kind of the bulk of the building, and I realize along the greenway, traditionally, there has been a lot of sensitivity to height. I do think, the setback variance requests we're seeing for the other sides of the building are really the trade-off for having a deeper setback than is required along the north lot line. So I think that's good, and certainly providing the walkway across opens up some of that area to the public, and as a result, the building is set back a little bit further and designed very nicely, stepping it back from the greenway. I do realize that this is a little bit unusual that now we're seeing projects along the greenway east of Lyndale. I think it's very exciting, but this by and large does meet our policy goals for this section of the greenway. Commissioner Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to thank everyone who came to speak. I think that overall I've heard positive feedback from folks about this project, particularly now that the issue has been solved with public access to the amenity that this project is bringing to the neighborhood, which is that walkway along the greenway. And I really hope and will continue to advocate for future projects to continue that. And I think it's a really exciting thing to bring that asset to the community. I think that the testimony we heard today is a little snapshot of a lot of the kind of difference of opinions that there is within the Whittier neighborhood. It's a big neighborhood geographically. It's the largest by population, but it's also very large geographically and very diverse place. People tend to have lots of different opinions, and I agree that all of the work that the neighborhood organization and others have done over the years really helps bring that community together. And again, not everyone always agrees, but I think that we'll continue to see folks in Whittier come together and kind of celebrate all of the great things about the neighborhood. I think it's the coolest neighborhood in the city. We don't currently regulate the affordability levels of housing in new projects. I am working on a policy change that in the future would potentially require developments like this to have some number of affordable units in them, and I think that's the right direction to move. We have staff working on an analysis of that, but I often hear that, particularly from my constituents in Whittier, where folks are seeing rents go up. That we make sure that we're planful over the next decades to make sure that people aren't completely displaced from this neighborhood where there are 90% of folks who rent. So anyway, I support the rezoning. I am very sensitive to a lot of the issues that were raised during the discussion, particularly the traffic issues and the safety of folks who are walking and biking and driving in the neighborhood as we add traffic. But I know that our public works staff have reviewed this. I do think we need to do some work within the Whittier neighborhood to improve bicycle and pedestrian safety, and so I'll say that as well. So thanks.
All right. Commissioner Rockwell, do you have anything to add?
Just very briefly to add on to Commissioner Bender's comments. I think I live near here, although not in Whittier, in Lindale, other side of Lake Street. And, I think the long-time residents of these neighborhoods have made enormous positive difference, and a lot of that was pointed out in testimony today. The creation of the Greenway and a cohesive neighborhood and community, and and this project is proposed because of all of that, and it is a change, and it is and it's a change that needs to be managed, but and it can be difficult, and I want to acknowledge that, but I also want to acknowledge that the neighborhood is what it is, and this kind of development is being proposed, and the neighborhood is seen as an opportunity because of that work.
All right. Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve item A, the rezoning. If there's no further discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Bender?
Aye.
Kranzer?
Aye.
Lipke-Pier?
Aye.
Magrino?
Aye.
Rockwell?
Aye.
Slack?
Aye.
Sweezy? Aye.
All right.
So- Aye.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, 7-0 then.
All right. We still have 8 more applications before us. Commissioner Kranzer.
Propose a motion to approve the conditional use permit to increase the maximum height from 4 stories to 6 stories.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the conditional use permit for height. Is there any further discussion on that? Commissioner Lipke-Pier.
Yeah, I just wanted to indicate that in earlier testimony, people were concerned about the height. And I know that we discussed in committee the whole, the trade-off between the 4 stories taking up the whole space versus stepping back to not shadow the greenway and cover more area. So I just wanted to acknowledge that that was something taken on an attempt to actually be a benefit. And then further, that the request to postpone due to a traffic study being done would actually result in automatic approval because we'd missed the timing clock on this. So just to acknowledge that we did hear what you were saying.
All right. If there is no further discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Sweezy? Aye. Slack?
Aye.
Rockwell?
Aye.
Magrino?
Aye.
Lipke-Pier?
Aye.
Kranzer?
Aye.
Bender?
Aye.
7-0.
Okay. Still several more applications. We have 4 variances next. Commissioner Kranzer.
I'd like to move a motion to approve a staff recommendation for variance C, D, E, and F.
All right. We have a motion and a second to approve items C, D, E, and F, the 4 variances. If there is no further discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Bender?
Aye.
Kranzer?
Aye.
Lipke-Pier? Magrino?
Aye.
Rockwell?
Aye.
Slack?
Aye.
Sweezy? Aye. 7-0.
Item G is the site plan review. Commissioner Kranzer, do you want to take a stab at that?
I would. I'd like to propose a motion to approve site plan review with the 10 stated conditions in addition to 1 more. Number 11, the applicant shall work with staff to make the promenade sidewalk as public feeling as possible. Such suggestions could include reducing the 90-degree bends in the sidewalk, removing the rocks directly adjacent to the public sidewalk. I guess those are the 2 thoughts I had. I would entertain further thoughts.
All right. Is there a second? Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Commissioner Rockwell?
I support the spirit, and I am going to end up voting no on that one additional condition, just because I'm not sure we have the authority to do that. And I'm always the one that says we do. I'm not sure we do here.
All right. Commissioner Kronzer.
Just wanted to speak to the public sidewalk. I've been using the sidewalks on the north side of the Greenway as the weather's been getting nice, and it's really a great amenity. Some of the things that I think we'd all like to see a little bit better are actually not allowed by our public works staff. They don't want curb cuts. They don't want this walkway to be an unmarked crosswalk across the streets themselves. But I hope this promenade can grow in this part of Whittier as well as we see projects. So making a few tweaks to the design, I think, will be well worth everyone's time as we look back at this in a couple of years.
All right. Is there any further discussion on that motion? And I'll just restate that for the record. So that's a motion to approve item G, the site plan review with the 10 stated conditions, as well as an 11th condition that the applicant work with staff to make the sidewalk as public as possible, possibly including, but not limited to, removing the bends and removing the rocks. If there's no further discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Bender?
Aye.
Kronzer?
Aye.
Lipke-Pier?
Aye.
Magrino?
Aye.
Rockwell?
Aye.
Slack?
Aye.
Squeezy?
Aye.
7-0.
And that motion carries. We have two more items to consider. H, the preliminary plat, and I, the alley vacation.
I'd like to propose a motion to approve both the preliminary plat and the vacation of the alley, partial vacation of the alley.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Squeezy?
Aye.
Slack?
Aye.
Rockwell?
Aye.
Magrino?
Aye.
Lipke-Pier?
Aye.
Kronzer?
Aye.
Bender?
Aye.
7-0.
And that motion carries. And that concludes our discussion on that item, also concludes our business for today. We'll have committee of the whole on Thursday. Our next meeting is April 11th. And that concludes our meeting.